All right, let's jump right in. We're going to tackle what is probably the most profound, universal, and just deeply personal question anyone can ever ask.
Yep, there it is, the big one. You know, every single culture, every philosophy, really every person, at some point in their life, stops and wonders about this. It's got to be one of the deepest things we can even think about.
So think of this as a kind of journey. We're going to explore the major viewpoints out there, looking at each one like it's a different map, a different guide for what might lie beyond.
So, our first stop on this journey is a perspective that sees death not really as an ending, but more like a transition. Think of it as a doorway to an eternal destination.
Okay, so the core idea here, the absolute foundation, is that we're more than just our physical bodies, right? In this view, every single person has a soul, a non-physical, spiritual essence, and that's the part of you that's believed to continue on.
And what's really fascinating here is how specific this path is. It's not just some vague idea of the afterlife. No, this view lays out a very clear progression. It starts with immediate conscious awareness the second you die, then moves through a kind of waiting state, leading all the way up to a future resurrection, a final judgment, and then that eternal destination.
So the bottom line here, the really crucial point, is this. Your consciousness, that feeling of being you, it doesn't just flicker out like a candle. It keeps going. It continues right on into a new reality, one that's permanent.
All right, let's totally shift gears now. We're going to look at a completely different map, one drawn using only the tools of science, physical measurement, and observation.
So, from this viewpoint, the entire explanation is rooted in biology, pure and simple. Consciousness isn't some separate soul floating around. No, it's what's called an emergent property of our brain's super complex network of neurons. And the analogy is pretty simple. When the hardware, the brain, shuts down, so does the software, your consciousness.
And this, of course, leads to a pretty stark and very final conclusion. The experience of death, well, it's the end of all experience. It's not a transition, it's a full stop. Just a deep, dreamless sleep that you never wake up from. Forever.
And this really just lays it out perfectly, doesn't it? It shows the fundamental fork in the road. It all boils down to this one single, crucial question. What is consciousness? Is it just brain activity? Or is it the expression of a soul? I mean, the answer you pick there determines your entire map of what happens next.
Now, it's really important to point something out here. While science is amazing at explaining the mechanics of how a body dies, the biological processes, the actual subjective experience of awareness itself, that feeling of being you, that's still a huge mystery. Some call it the hard problem of consciousness, and it's absolutely a frontier that science is still exploring.
Okay, so our journey's about to take another turn. Now we're heading into a perspective that's really common in a lot of Eastern religions. And this view, well, it offers a cyclical answer, not a final one.
So, instead of thinking about a one-way trip to some final place, this is all about a continuous journey. The soul, or maybe you could call it a life force, doesn't just stop. It finds a new body, a new vessel, and begins a whole new life to experience. And there's a real system to this cycle. The idea is that your actions in this life, your karma, directly shape what your next life is going to be like. But, and this is key, it's not meant to be an endless loop. The ultimate goal, the whole point, is to learn and grow so much that you finally get to step off this cycle, to achieve a state of total freedom, sometimes called moksha or nirvana. All right, now we're going to venture into some really fascinating and kind of mysterious territory. We're talking about first-hand accounts from people who have, for all intents and purposes, clinically died and then been brought back. These are literally glimpses from the very edge.
And what's just so compelling about these stories is how consistent they are. You have people from totally different cultures, different beliefs, different backgrounds, all reporting startlingly similar things. Seeing a bright light, this feeling of overwhelming peace, even having an out-of-body experience where they watch doctors working on them from above. It's a pattern that comes up again and again.
So, look, are these stories hard, definitive, scientific proof? No, of course not. They're not controlled experiments, but their powerful consistency, that makes them a really fascinating piece of this massive puzzle we're trying to figure out. Okay, so we've looked at an eternal destination, a final sleep, a repeating cycle, and even these incredible glimpses from the edge. After exploring all these different maps, the big question is, where does that leave us?
Well, the truth is, nobody really knows for sure, right? From our point of view, here, living, we just can't see the other side with perfect clarity. It means there's always going to be an element that requires, well, a leap of faith. And that's true no matter which path you think is the right one.
And this is where one perspective we looked at makes a pretty bold claim. The argument is that the Christian worldview isn't just based on philosophy, it's based on a specific event in history. The claim that one person, Jesus, actually went into death and came back out. For that faith, this claim is pretty much the central piece of evidence.
So that leaves us with some big questions to think about. Questions that kind of poke at each of these different maps. Let's start with this one. Our own consciousness, our awareness, feels incredibly real right now, doesn't it? So, is it more logical to think it just poof, disappears, or that it continues in some way?
And what about this feeling that most of us have deep down, that our lives have meaning, that love and justice are more than just chemical reactions in our brains? Where does that intuition come from? Is it hinting at something more, something beyond the physical? Or is it maybe just a really complex survival trait our minds developed to help us deal with knowing we're all going to die?
And then there's this. Why is it that almost every culture throughout all of human history has believed in some form of an afterlife? I mean, think about that. Is that near-universal belief pointing towards some kind of shared fundamental truth? Or does it just show that all humans everywhere have a deep-seated need for hope when we stare into the great unknown?
And maybe let's end on this one idea. From one of these perspectives, the ultimate point of an afterlife isn't just about survival. It's about relationship. But really, no matter what you believe, whether it's a final destination, a dreamless sleep, or another turn on a great cosmic wheel, each of these maps points back to the same question for us, right here and now. How does what you believe about the end change how you live and how you treat people today? And that is a powerful thought to leave you with.